have weapons for clowns? Is that what you're saying? Now the insta-para, and now we blast. Got another para. And the tail. Paralysis. You want to fly, not today. That was very fast. The Forbidden Dual Blade Guide. The Support Dual Blade. I know that sounds kind of contradictory, but it actually kind of works, and I think this is the best group multiplayer build that you can play currently if you're not the one doing damage. So let's get into it. On the right, for the people that just want to see the equipment skills, you can see it already right here. Paralysis attack 3, critical status to get even more paralysis attack. The critical draws just from the weapon. Critical boost, weakness exploit 5 for more crit, which is better for critical status obviously. Flare to get more wounds. Marathon runner to make it much easier to stay in demon mode, although it's not that important, so you could also swap that to constitution. It's just from decorations. Heartbreaker, no brainer, you break parts more easily, more CC. Same with flare, by the way. Wounds, and especially when you get to the tempered monsters, wounds basically CC the boss whenever you break it, so it's completely OP. Agitator is just for more crit and a little bit damage, and the rest is just from the set. So why am I playing this, and why does this work? We're using para weapons, Lala, Harpak, whatever the hell that means. These ones are technically not the best one. I think if you get a perfectly rolled Artian weapon, it might be slightly better. But it's such a small difference that I don't think it's really worth grinding for. And I have grinded for it, and I still don't have it. So these weapons are quite strong because they have high paralysis. You don't really have a lot of options as a dual blade player. But I'll show you my setup real quick before I explain it a little bit further. So this weapon, let's go to the decorations first. You go Paralyzer level 3. Because the weapon in itself already has critical status level 1, so you only need a level 2, which is the second socket. And then I got a bonus crit boost. The amount of wounds you make also depends on how much damage you do. So having a little bit more crit damage on a build that is this focused on crits is a good idea. Especially when you're playing Corrupted Mantle as well, which I am. I need to swap that around because my camera's blocking everything again, as per usual. The Corrupted Mantle is really nice because it gives you a lot of crit and a lot of attack, which makes it much easier to apply wounds and much easier to apply your paralysis, because with crits, you do more paralysis, right? Exploiter Charm, just to get the last 2 points of weakness exploit. You get 2 already from the Guardian Arcveld gloves, and then you get 1 from a decoration, which I have here, Tenderizer 1, and then you have the 2 talismans, so you get maxed out easily, right? Also, maybe we should talk about this really quick. The 4-set Guardian Arcveld, there's only really one big reason. It has, as you can see here, Beta has Flare and Partbreaker on it. This one has Flare on it again. The Blight Resistance doesn't really matter. The arms have Weakness Exploit on it, which is pretty good. And again, the waist has Flare on it once more. So you are basically on 4 flare almost maxed out, and you only need 1 decoration again to create more wounds on the target. And yeah, then you also have 2 more sockets. I have Destroyer on it just to max out my part breaker as well, because whenever you break parts of a monster, it gets staggered a little bit. Sometimes it even falls down, so there's even more CC there. So basically, your goal is to create as many wounds as possible, and by doing that, create as much paralysis as possible, and break as many parts as possible. So the real gameplay is technically to apply a wound to multiple parts of the monster. So maybe, let's say, here I'll create a wound. As you can see, there's a wound here now. I already destroyed it. And when there's this black skin on the wound, you can't make another wound on it for a while. So basically what you want to do is you go to the next target, you apply a wound again, and so on. Right? That's the, well, you can't do it here, but that's what you want to basically do. The goal is to not only attack one specific part of the monster, but always go to the weak spots to different ones, apply wounds over and over and over again, while getting it paralyzed, while breaking the parts. That way, the monster will be CC'd multiple times. Like on smaller monsters, on this one, it can't basically even move. And even for higher level bosses in Arcvelds and Tempereds, and all of that combined, oftentimes the bosses can't really move at all. And if you get them into a loop, then maybe you can even combine that with things, right? You can combine that with like a flash pod. You can send monsters, like when they're climbing up something or when they're flying, you can send a flash pod in, CC them again, and maybe you can place a trap on top of that. I have a couple here, but I can't use it in the training mode. If you pair the paralysis with the wound breaking, and especially important on tempered monsters, by the way, if I haven't said that already, did I? Tempered wounds, so the blue wounds, maybe you didn't even know those existed yet. If you attack tempered monsters, sometimes the wounds become blue. If you break those, it always CCs the monster, it staggers it, and it falls down. The wounds are especially strong against tempered monsters. So if you have that in combination with the paralysis, the wounds, the part breaking, flash bombs, traps, other things, you can basically stun log monsters in a group and they can never move, which is, I think, incredibly potent, incredibly strong, and there's barely any counterplay from the bosses themselves. So if you're playing in a group, if you want to grind multiplayer, even with random people, this build is what I would highly recommend. Also, if you want to be really try hard, you can also add a meal on top of that that actually increases your paralysis a little bit further, by 10 to be exact. So here you can take whatever. It's for dual blades, all of this is good. Less stamina draining, and more weight window, all of these are insane, right? So if you want to have a specialized meal for a big boss fight, go for one of these as well. But the real important one here is this wild seed oil specialist meal. Increases the potency of abnormal status effects or abnormal status attacks. So this gives you an additional 10 paralysis on top of it, and there you go. Like with all of the setup, you can basically perma-CC a monster. I think this is the best group build out there right now for dual blades, and I hope that helps you guys out a lot in your end game grinding for whatever it is, for decorations, or if you want to grind for arty and weapon pieces. I think this is the set to go for it if you want to do it in a group. So yeah, have a good one, guys. Thanks for tuning in. If you have any more improvement suggestions or just questions about the build, go for it. I read all of the comments. Have a good one, guys. Peace.